Welcome back to another episode of the Process of Becoming podcast. My name is Josh, and I have a pretty special guest here today. Who are
Surprise.
you? Yeah.
My name is Jenna Guerrettaz. I'll introduce myself.
Yeah, she's been on the show a couple of different times, but if you are starting new and you're starting on this episode, Jenna and I have a 4 and a half year friendship, mentorship, friendship, whatever ship.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm surprised that we're both still alive at this point, to be honest. There's been
we've been through it.
4 years of like a lot of this.
But Jenna was in town training for some CrossFit stuff. I am currently in between events for a team weekend for someone else that's in town. And we said, you know what, let's get a podcast recorded. Since you're here, we might as well capitalize on the opportunity.
Yeah.
So
excited.
Prefacing this, as you shed hair
Sorry,
everywhere.
I'm shedding.
Jenna has her own podcast, so she is not new to this. Why don't you tell them what your podcast is called?
Yes, my best friend and I have a podcast. It's called When Mamas Rise Up. And it's not just for mamas. We literally just talk about, it's called When Mamas Rise Up because that's our journey personally, because both of us were just kind of in similar spots. And honestly, it's kind of what we're going to be digging into a little bit today, just kind of like rising up to where we're at now. But yeah, we talk about all the things.
We're gonna talk about the process of becoming better, not rising up. So, but yeah, this is Jenna. We're probably gonna argue a little bit. Just so you know, she is here doing a CrossFit training, like I said, and she worked out really, really hard for like freaking 4 hours straight. So I have no sleep and just go. So our energy is a little bit lower today, but I promise you, we're just gonna have a fun conversation that is gonna be all kinds of valuable for you guys.
Yeah,
so
I hope my brain works right. I'm pretty tired, guys. We did a lot of working out today, and my body hurts, and I'm like, I just need a chair. Just give me a chair.
I know. She was like, I'm not recording this if I have to stand. I'm like, okay, roger that. So obviously, Dino, if you are newer to the podcast, Dino Musich is he's my true co-host. We just haven't been able to connect to get a full-length episode. So I was planning on doing a solo one this weekend, or Dino may have done that as well. But we're going to do it with Jenna. We're going to make it an amazing thing. And one of the things I really want to talk about, and we were kind of just spitballing the game plan a little bit of the direction we're going to go. We don't have any notes, but the direction we really wanted to take you through is from an outside perspective. And the funny thing, and the reason why I say from an outside perspective, is because when her and I look at our individual lives and where we've come from, where we are currently at, we don't feel like we're really that big of a deal. Right. But if you look from the outside perspective, at least from a success standpoint, and we've checked a lot of those boxes of what the world would deem successful or quote unquote have made it. And again, that's not how we see ourselves. But really what we wanted to do is we wanted to just kind of walk back and talk about a little bit about who we were and the lot that we had in life and the cards that we were dealt and some of the experiences that we've had, the mindset shifts that we've had, and just to help you guys understand that like, there is hope. There is belief for a future. There is the belief of like, I can change, and there is proof positive of that. And we're just two living examples of it, So we just want to kind of walk through a little bit of the history of where we've come from and all that kind of stuff, tell a little bit of our stories through the process.
Yeah. I really like that you came up with this idea because I was like, if you were to look at my life, even just 5 years ago, like this, it's not like I've been on this journey for a super long time, but just 5 years ago, it's a 180. Like I am literally a completely different person. Yeah. And so I think that's why I get so passionate about what I do and with helping people. And just like what Liz and I talk about in our podcast too, a lot, just because it's so normal for our society. Because I feel like it was honest for me to think the way that I used to think. And we'll dig into that. Like I honestly, truly did just think that I was stuck. Like I just thought that I would just had this like hand of cards dealt to me. And that's all I had for life, and I didn't realize, had no idea I was capable of becoming more and becoming successful because I thought only certain people in life were like given the success cards and I just wasn't one of them. And I truly believed that. And so like from where I was to now, the mindset that I have, it's like, I cannot wait to see what I am just capable of doing in this lifetime. Yeah. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's wild. And I think too, like looking at from an outside perspective, right, is we see other people in life, even you and I, right? Like you 5 years ago would not have looked up to the same type of leaders that you look up to now, right? Because there's a lot of reasons for it and it's hard to pinpoint exactly one. But one of them is it's like you just didn't even know they existed because you weren't on that plane of existence, right? So I think of like a John Maxwell or Andy Frisella or Ed Milet or like people that like we both see as mentors from a distance, obviously, in our lives. And it's like now once you go through the process of what you've done the last 5 years, now that's like the next aspirational step, right? Or somebody else's next aspirational step. I think it's important. I want to kind of go back and I want to ask that question to start is like 5 years ago, did you even have any semblance of anybody that you aspired to be like? And did you ever spend time thinking about like, oh, I want to be like that person? Or were you just so completely oblivious to growth
I was
and change?
so oblivious to it. Like I was never like, oh, I want to try to be like that person. It was like, well, that person's lucky. That person just has a really successful hand of cards in life. Like, good for them. That would be awesome to be that person. But I didn't have a single ounce of me that was like, it's possible for me to be like that too. You know, I truly thought that people just had different paths of life. And like, I think that's why it's wild for me to look back at like how far I've come. And when I can really like remove myself and look from the outside in, it's like, I have to remind myself like, holy crap, like how far I've actually come in that 4.5, 5 years is crazy. Because like I'm telling you, I didn't even think that it was possible. I had such a fixed mindset that I will say the very first thing I even learned about like self-development and growth and all the things, the very first thing I learned, it was from you. You taught me about a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And it's the most basic thing. And if I were to talk to anybody like getting ready to start on their journey, it would be learn what that is. And so we can go into that a little bit too, because I think that's the most basic way to describe how to change and do it as like a self-evaluation of where you're at to where you could go.
Yeah, for sure. And the really weird thing about that, we can dive into it for sure. I want to ask you one more question before we do though. The really interesting thing about a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, and it's very similar to a lot of stuff that we teach guys, like the visualization loop, you name it. You don't even know that it exists, but it is working for you or against you the whole time, right? And it's handicapping you, quite honestly. But then once you know that it exists, you have a choice to make, right? And it's kind of like what I talk about with tendencies. Like a tendency in your life is only a tendency until while it's unobserved.
Yeah.
Right. So like when you get overwhelmed, you emotionally eat, right? If you're not observing that and it's just truly a tendency or a reaction, it's a tendency. But as soon as you observe that, it becomes a choice.
Yep.
Right. So similar thing with this is like, once you learn this, and you guys have been listening to my show, a lot of you guys have listened to Jenna's show before. When you learn the things now, it's like you're intentionally choosing one way or the other every day. Yep. So the question that I have for you is, you kept talking about like, hey, like where you used to be. Like, why don't you explain that a little bit? You can go into whatever depth that you want. But you talked about the fixed mindset and just where you were. But
I think that really that just kind of sums it up with what I was saying. I had such a fixed mindset that I thought that like only certain people got certain hands of cards in life, and that was it. And there were certain people that were millionaires, and there were certain people that had good bodies, and there were certain people that like in every category, and I just wasn't one of them. But I truly like, it was an honest way of thinking. It wasn't just me like being lazy and not wanting to make changes or playing the victim, which I was very much playing the victim, but I didn't realize it. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like, well, this is how my life has been. This is where I ended up. Like, this is what I have for the rest of my life. That sucks. But I was settling, and I didn't realize I was settling. I thought that it's just how it was.
Yeah. It's what you're supposed to do.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, anytime things got hard, I quit because things aren't supposed to be hard in life. Like, oh, that must not be the path for me. I didn't know that I could just push through. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, that's not right. That's not right. I lived very, very, very much in this little comfort bubble. Comfort as in just like, I didn't want to get uncomfortable and like do certain things. I was not comfortable in that bubble as far as like where I was in my life, but I didn't know that I had another choice.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah.
Now, when you were back in that spot though, like, were you it's easy for people to hear that and be like, all right, well, that's not me because I'm taking action.
Yeah.
Right. Or I'm reading the books. But I also would say that like, you could be reading the books, you could be taking action. I mean, you could still be lying to yourself and living a fixed mindset. Right. Yeah. Subconsciously, for sure. Like, that was me. Like, if you look at my story back in the day, I was that guy, right? I was the epitome of that. Is I had a fixed mindset. I bought books. I would read them, right? I would hang around people that had better mindset than me. But I thought that because I was around those people by osmosis and by proximity, that I was becoming that person, right? Which is why when we teach the visualization loop, it's like, hey, you can have a different reality. You can have different thoughts. You can have different emotions. But unless you take action on the emotion, you don't complete the circle to go back to a new reality, right? And I've never really positioned it that way with you guys listening, but that's the reality of it. You have to complete the circle. So even still to that point is you can take some of the actions, but if you don't create a habit, it's not going to lead to a different reality, right? Or you can change the thoughts, but if you don't bring the emotion into it, you're stuck in the loop.
So, but
You're stuck there.
So what you're saying is you were a little delulu and you thought that you were better than actually you were.
Well, very much so. But like, again, it was just that the lie that you tell yourself, like, I'm doing better than I was.
Yeah.
But was I really? Like, I wasn't. I had the books. I didn't read them all. I didn't put them into action.
Or it's not that bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're lying to yourself saying it's not that bad. Like, I don't emotionally that bad. Well, I worked out one day last week. It's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like you're still keeping yourself stuck because of this mindset that like you're literally just in a cage where you're not allowing yourself to see what you're truly capable of or pushing yourself to get uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You 100%.
Know? So for you, when you were back there, were you reading the books, listening to any podcast?
No.
Like,
no.
What was your day to day? Like, not from what did you do day to day, but like from a standpoint of any type of forward progression, was there anything that you had from an action item standpoint?
Absolutely nothing. I was like, I would just scroll like all my, I watched a lot of TV. I was scrolling a lot. I didn't do anything. Huh?
Is that why you're in such good shape?
You mean when I was 50,
physically?
I was 50 pounds overweight.
Same.
I was doing nothing, and it was like, if I felt like I was being productive, it was because I was like learning a new recipe or like, you know what I mean? Like it was not
learning something else to stuff your face.
Yeah. All right. Or learning a new skill. I learned how to crochet and I was like, this is me. This is self-growth, So it wasn't that way. I did not listen to podcasts. I did not read books. The first time I read a book that was self-development was 5 years ago, 5 years ago. And the very first book I ever read was... Well, this is so funny. I read Atomic Habits for my very first book. However, it did not hit. It was like I was not in the headspace where that made sense to me. You know what I mean? Then I went on to read David Goggins. And when I read that, I will tell you, that was the book. It was his first one. What's it called? Can't Hurt Me. That was the first book that was like, whoa, this dude came up from nothing and did all this with his life. And I think that was probably the first time I was ever like, wait, people are not dealt like the success card. People make it happen. And so I will say that is probably the number one book that like influenced me the most, just because it's what made the light bulb go off in my head.
So once you read that book, right? Because I feel like going back to my side of that, I was reading the books and I had light bulbs all the time.
Yeah.
Right. I would hang out with very successful business people. I rubbed shoulders with people and I was in that crowd of people that wanted me to be better. And again, by proximity, I thought I was getting better, but I was learning all this stuff. I had the aha moments, but I never took action on it. Or if I did, it wouldn't last. Right. So for you, when you read that book, what happened after that? Did you go take crazy action? Did you take little action? Did you make a change right away? Or did you sit in it and kind of not take action? Because you went from a fixed mindset.
Right.
You got exposed to a growth mindset and understood that. What did you do with that information right away?
Okay. So let's say this, because I remember when I read that book, I had already been working with you and you had started like planting those seeds of like, this is what's possible. This is what's possible. I mean, I heard you and I started doing the thing. I thought you were full of shit. I was like, I'll do the things, but this is never like, I will never get to there. That's never going to be me. You know what I mean? But I was just like, okay, I'll do the things, whatever. But I didn't think it was going to actually lead to a result. And then once I read that book, I think that that's when I was like, wait, this really could work. Like I could get to that point. I could reach these goals. So I think that was more of a turning point of A, the light bulb going off, but B, also starting to do things with intention. You know what I mean? Because before I didn't even know what intention was because I had no intention to do anything because I didn't think I was capable of growing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So the interesting thing there, guys, if you can read between the lines and a little bit of that story, is that she took a whole lot of action, but she didn't have any belief.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So when I just had a little discussion with the group of people that ran, and that's one of the things that I've talked to them about. The girl was telling me that she didn't have a whole lot of belief. I'm like, you don't have to have belief. All you got to do is take action. Right. So I love that. I love that you said that. And I love that it was that trajectory for you because that is like, it's a complete story and it's a complete testimonial of everything that we talk about of like, all right, you can have the proximity situation and you can pour into yourself, but if you don't take action, nothing's going to happen. You can take action without belief and then something good's going to happen. You don't have to have belief before you take action. And so I think that's freaking awesome. And it's a perfect picture painted of that trajectory. Just to kind of step back for you guys that may not know Jenna, the position of success that like the outside world views for the people that do know what she does, I'm going to brag on her for a minute, is about 5 years ago, she started basically with nothing from a nutrition coaching business online. She started from scratch, zero. In the last 4.5 years has built like quite honestly, an extremely, extremely successful business, has completely replaced a full-time income multiple times over. And it's happened simply because she cares about people and has poured into people. Right. So again, from a success, like that's my role here at First Form, is to help people do things like that. And it's a goal that I hear from a lot of people is like, man, if I could just replace my income and just make some extra money or even pay a mortgage payment, be awesome. Well, she's done it multiple times over. And she's continuing to grow. And I mean, the potential is ridiculous. So that's where the success is that's coming from. That is a very successful business owner here. And she does it all with 3 kids, right? So it's not like she just full time, there's nothing else going on. But she's got 2 older kids in sports. She's got a young tyrant that is amazing, but he is this,
literally, he's a tornado. Like he's just.
So when it comes to somebody that's overcome excuses, when it comes to somebody that has gone against all the odds, like this is the person, right? So I want you to catch the couple of things that she said is like, hey, just to recap, she started out with no belief. She started out with a fixed mindset of not even believing that it was possible to change or grow or to improve her lot in life. And then in a matter of 4.5 years has created nearly an empire out of it, right? So I love that. Anything you want to add to that?
I want to kind of turn it over to you because it was like, that's where I went. I started taking the action because I didn't believe. And then that's when, the things clicked. I started using intention, and that's when things started really taking off. Like you had an opposite story because you thought that you were doing the things. So like, where was your light bulb? Like, when did you make that switch?
Man, that's a really good question. For me, I think it was a self-guided situation. Actually, I know it's a self-guided situation. For years and years, I was, just to kind of paint a picture, I've never actually talked about this because it's just such a weird time in my life. I don't even know if you know this, but the business minds and all the people that are around, I was a part of a multi-level marketing company. I'm called Amway. Some people know what it is. Some people don't. I'm not going to talk about it one way or the other. Could care less. However, I was part of that, right? And it really, that kind of came out of a season of my life where I was looking for something. I was looking for a change. I was looking for community. I wasn't really even looking for income, which is what like their whole thing is. I spent way more money than I ever made. But the cool thing is that the good things that did come out of it is I would go to a couple of their bigger seminars and different things. And I would listen to John. This is where I heard John Maxwell speak for the first time. I got to hear Coach K talk, right? And I was around that. But again, the avenue that I was trying to apply it to, I didn't believe in. I was just like, I was applying it, but there was no intent. To your point, there's no intention. Like, I don't believe that this is happening. I don't really agree with it, but I'm learning. I'm around people that I kind of like, and they're cool people, and I'm getting great opportunities. So we wrote it out for a little bit and did that. But really from there, I kind of pivoted and I went down the path of just self-destruction after that. Right. So for me, it was about 10 years. I started smoking shortly after, like walking away from that. So again, like getting all this success mindset and then turning and like, I'm going to start smoking cigarettes. It makes perfect sense. And I started setting up my life, getting married, starting to have the kids, doing all the things and kind of stepping into like different career paths. And for me, it all started from a standpoint of my physical journey. So I had the seed planted, right? And one of the things, guys, that you don't know is that if you plant a seed, you have to apply water and you have to apply it tons of sunlight. You got to feed it, right? Plenty of water, tons of water. You want to give the seed, right? But you gotta pour into that. So those seeds were planted back then, but I didn't actually feed it and I didn't water those seeds. They were just kind of laying there dormant. So fast forward 8, 9, 10 years, whatever it was. I think it was almost 10 years exactly. I had a couple of health scares, which I've talked a little bit about on here. And I was like, I should really figure my shit out physically. Right. So all that while I had been listening to Andy's MF CEO podcast, and it was the same exact thing. Right. I was listening to it. I was learning. I was a success zombie, as they call it, but I wasn't going and applying anything. But all of that was building up. So like there wasn't any type of wasted time there. And tons of wasted time, but there wasn't any wasted effort from a standpoint of putting that good in my brain. Because when I then decided to change my life, I had a habit and some of those seeds were planted and they started to come up a little bit. And I really leaned into the personal development. One of the first books that I read at the beginning of my physical journey when I had the health scares and was like, I need to change this shit physically. Again, to your point, I had zero belief. I knew I could change physically just because I had been in that world, but I had never seen anybody do it. So I was like, this is going to be hard. But in my head, logically, I was like, I used to be in the best shape of my life. I'm now in the worst shape of my life. So if it could go this way, it has to be able to go the other way. And I knew what to do. So I read a book called How to Make Shit Happen. I believe it was called. It's by Sean Whalen, right? Super awesome, simple read, but it gave me some very actionable things where I was like, okay, I can do these. And in fact, these are the exact things I need to go do. Right. One of the things was like, hey, instead of thinking of like, my goal is to work out tomorrow, like when are you working out and what workout are you going to do? How many reps, how many sets, what does the workout look like? And the second part was instead of just saying and doing that, have a contingency. Because if it's the workout in the morning, then you oversleep and you don't have a contingency and a secondary promise to yourself or a commitment, then you're much more likely to skip it. And then you just create a zero compromise attitude of no matter what, that second was going to happen. Right. So I started leaning into that, saw a little bit of traction. I was like, okay, there's a little bit of bubblings of getting this to go. But then I struggled because I was super sore and I just couldn't string together shit. It took a little while. There's a good period of time there. But really, that's when I ramped up the reading. I was like, okay, that book made a difference. And then I read Can't Hurt Me pretty soon after that. And I was the same thing you experienced. I was like, holy shit, this guy should be a statistic. Like if he can create those changes and turn his life around in that way, I can, right? And then the rest of it kind of just took off from there. And over a trajectory of, 8-9 years now, ended up where I'm at. But again, it was just an everyday process going from a point of not believing, not even knowing really what's possible, but having the hope that it is, and then just moving in that direction.
What was so crazy about Can't Hurt Me? Honestly, this was what opened my eyes the most. So the town that he grew up in when he was younger, like the horrible town that he lived in, is like 40 minutes from where I live. Yep. And I was like, wait a minute.
And he's like probably around the same age as you, maybe a little bit older.
No, I think
right?
he's older than me a little. But
I'm thinking my age.
Yeah, you're old. But that's when I was like, I mean, because in my head, I'm like, well, from where I'm from, like people just don't get successful. Like all these things, but I was like, he came from this tiny little town, 40 minutes from where I live, that's even like smaller than anything I grew up in. And I'm like, and he was able to create those changes with all of this adversity. That's when I was like, whoa, it's in my control. I think that was the biggest thing, was realizing it was in my control. And then once you realize your life is truly in your control, like by default, you drop that victim mindset, I think.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah. And so that was the biggest thing. I mean, I was such a victim. Like I loved it. I fed off of that, forever. But I didn't know that I was doing it, So looking back, I'm just like, oh, so cringy. Like it's so bad. But that's the thing, I think, is just being aware of it. And had I not met you, you were the first person in my life to like call it out. And that's when I was like, wait, what? Like, and then, I mean, light bulbs everywhere, Yeah.
That's wild. I think about that, right? Like going through both of our journeys, going through the journey of anybody that's listening here. Something we talked about on the show. We never really did the entire, we've just mentioned it, but really what it comes down to is exposure, right? Like at the end of the day, at some point in your life, you're going to be exposed to something that makes you question things or makes you think a little bit differently or makes you at least pause and be like, right? And for you, it was like, all right, wait a minute. Like, I don't have to stay like this, or there's options like outside of this. Right. And I mean, that's honestly the same type of thing for me. Like one of the things that I'm thinking of with exposure for me was like somebody from my grade, my high school, moved away from our town and was like, he's like had a great career and like was successful. I was like, and another girl did it. And I was like, nobody leaves our town. Like everybody talks about it. And I was like, wait, if Nate can go be successful doing what he's doing, if Kim can go be successful, and she was ultra successful, I was like, well, why can't I? Like, I'm not destined to stay here, right? Which started, and I had no plan. I had no idea, but I was like, all right, well, maybe I don't have to live that life. So at some point, and you were exposed to the book, you were exposed to the idea of like, okay, well, maybe I don't have to stay like that. You're exposed to like having an introspective look and like, okay, well, how am I, right? So it's probably happened to you at some point if you're listening, like you had exposure to something. Somebody said something, it was on the same frequency. You thought something, you had a random thing pop in your head, like lean into that, understand it, try to understand it, chase it. Don't just go back to like, oh, okay, cool. That was just a happenstance thing. Cause there is no such thing as coincidence.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that opened my eyes in this transition is that like, I've always been, don't be surprised. I've always been a highly emotional person. But I've always been a very, very, very intuitive person. Like I am highly sensitive to energies. I'm very intuitive. I always am like feeling a certain way about things. And looking back, I mean, I always have, but I've never, ever, 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 ever done anything about it because of, quote, my perceived reality. I was like, that's weird. I feel this way because this is how my life is. And this is just how it needs to stay. This is just, again, the hand of cards that I was dealt. And now looking back, I'm like, holy shit. Like that was my intuition trying to tell me like, no, this was wrong. Like, no, you should have done this. Like, no, you felt this way for a reason. Oh, and so like, that was another huge eye opener for me, was that like, trust, like your intuition is real. Like, and it's trying to tell you things, and where you should go and guide you.
Yeah.
you
So
know?
it's the one thing, and I think everybody has the ability to hone in and develop their intuition, but I also feel it is a gift for certain people. I have that gift. And it's really, if you boil intuition down, it's nothing more than your ability to read, feel, and understand energy based on your energy, right? So the way that my gift works, and I've honed it over the years as well, is like I can tell, like immediately meeting somebody within the first minute, I can tell you exactly what type of person they are, like what their ideals are, like not specifically, but like, are they a good person? Are they a bad person? Are they the type of person that is super loyal? Like I can figure that stuff out pretty quickly, which helped me in my career sales a lot. But at the end of the day, that is something that you can hone, right? By understanding energy, by being more receptive to different things and meditating and just getting in tune with yourself. I had a great conversation with a lady this weekend where she was telling me that you can go get your aura read. And I was like, well, that's fun. I might actually go check that out. Because I was talking about how I had like an aura, and she's like, have you ever like had your aura read? And I'm like, well, I've seen my aura. She's like, well, what color was it? And she was like, I'm like, it was yellow. She's like, holy shit, this is what this means. And it was neat. And I'm like, all right, well, that's just like the energy, like the frequency that you vibrate on. So, but no, I think the idea of exposure is very valuable. But coming from, okay, you dug into that, and you're like, all right, I've been exposed to this. I understand that I can change. I understand that there is something better out there. You didn't necessarily believe it, but you took action towards it. Let's give people like a tactical list of maybe 3 to 4 things that were like the most positive actions that you took. And it doesn't necessarily even need to be something that you did perfectly, but like looking back on it, like, hey, these are the things that took me from action with no belief to like finally believing it and starting to see it kind of shape you into who you are now.
I will tell you that like the belief came like little by little. It was not big. Yeah. And even still, I struggle with it being big. And I have to like catch myself because I'm like, I have to, again, or I step back and I'm like, look, I can't believe what I did in 4.5 years. Why would I think that I'm not capable of doing this massive goal? You know, massive goals scare the hell out of me. And I don't even know if they scare me. I still have self-doubt. And so I think the biggest thing was you were like painting these pictures of like, this is what you could do. This is what you're capable of. And I'm like, I'm still like, you're full of shit, but maybe this step I could accomplish, you know? So it was still like, I started believing, but it wasn't like, wow, I can do anything I want in life. I was still just like, okay, well, let's see if I'm capable of doing this, like just this baby step. And it was like little by little, it was like, I accomplished that goal. Okay. Then I'm starting to build a little bit of confidence. And then I'm starting to, again, see and do things with intent because I have many goals that I'm working towards. And that's honestly the key to doing things with intent is having a goal that you are working towards because then it gives you a reason behind what you're doing. And so I was like giving myself many goals and just continuing to accomplish them. And honestly, step by step by step, that's kind of how it's grown over the last 4 years. And I, like I said, I still struggle even just bigger, like really big goals. I mean, you always hear like set big goals and this and that. Your goals should scare you. Your dreams should scare you. I still struggle with that because I don't know.
I think that the truth, at least the way that I see it of why people struggle with it, because I do as well, is you know what kind of energy that it took to achieve what you've achieved so far. And then you start thinking out forward, okay, if I want to achieve that, it may require more energy. It may require the same energy, but it's not going to require less energy. And then you have this subconscious tug of war of like, is it going to be worth it if I put that energy in?
Yeah.
And then there's also this thing in the back of your head that's like, well, there's no guarantee that if I put that energy in and focus on that primarily, that there is going to be a positive outcome from it. Right. And I think that's something that everybody struggles with, whether they want to admit it or not. It's again, it goes back to what we said earlier, it's the action without belief.
Yeah.
You know, and it's something Dino and I talked about on the podcast a while back is, at any point in life, it is perfectly okay to be like, no, I'm good where I'm at. Like, I'm happy to be here, you know, but it's not okay to not think big, right? Because if you don't think big to begin with and consistently chase big, you're probably never going to get to a place where that you're satisfied to be at. You're always going to get to a place that you settle to be at, which is what most of us do. Right, because most of us don't have big dreams, and we're like, all right, cool. I got the marriage, I got the kids. I guess I'm just going to be the mom that does PTO and sports, and I'm just going to do that. I guess I'm going to say I'm happy, and then the people suffer in silence. Yeah. Versus saying, you know what, I don't know if I can achieve that, but I'm going to work my ass off, and then getting to a point where you're like, no, like I've done good. I want to just enjoy life now. But you're way light years away from where you would have been, and maybe you're still light years away from where you could be, but it's still you're in a good spot, you know.
Yeah. I think that, yes, you get to a point where you enjoy life, but at the same time, I think that you should never stop challenging yourself. I think that's a really slippery slope.
The challenge is different.
Yeah. It's like you don't have to necessarily be like, okay, I'm happy where I'm at in my career. Like I don't want to move there. I'm happy here, but it's like, where else could I challenge myself and where else could I continue to grow? You know what I mean? Like you can reach your goals in certain areas because there's a ton of different areas of life that you can continue to grow in. You know what I mean? I don't want you to think that like, not you, but like just people listening, I don't want you to think that like, okay, I'm good now. I can just take my foot off the gas completely and just coast through life, because then you're going to very quickly find yourself where you were. Yeah. You know, it's almost like you need to just shift to a different area of life.
Yeah. The way Dean and I talked about it, because we talked about it a while back, is like, you're so hell bent on this path. And then you get to a spot and you're like, it's basically like if you'd be driving and you get to an intersection, you're like, all right, well, I know what happens if I continue to go that way, but what's over there? And you turn left and you just go explore that. You're not sitting still. You're just taking a different path and you're going to go explore something else.
Well, and you're still learning and growing and developing on a different path, you know?
Yeah. I think a big, like a correlation to this, and it kind of brings home the point that we're making. Like, you don't have to constantly be in chase mode of that original goal. It's like eventually, and this is coming from some of my friends that are multimillionaires, like what they used to say was like, eventually the stakes only get so thick and they all taste the same. Like eventually you can, like the vacation on the beach, it's the same as it was last time. Yeah, you make different memories, but like there's no more reward that's there. So, and like, hey, like your bank account, like you can only spend so much money, you know? And obviously if you're in a spot where you don't understand that, like, of course none of us do, but like at some point, like it's just the law of diminishing returns. You could keep working as hard as you want, but it doesn't get any better because it's just, you're there. Right. So then it's like, all right, then you pivot and you go wherever you want to go. So, and you chase something different. But I don't think complacency is never an option. And if you ever get to a point where you decide that, hey, I'm in a good spot, I want to pivot, like, of course, you're going to understand that you need to continue challenging.
Well, that's the thing is I kind of tell like the people that I work with, I'm like, you're kind of screwed once you realize what you're actually capable of. Because like, that's the thing. When 5 years ago, I didn't have that mindset because I truly didn't know what I was missing. And I didn't know how much potential I was not utilizing. And so it's like, once you learn this, then you're kind of just screwed forever. Cause you're like, now I can never not be chasing something or like going after a goal or whatever, just because I know that I'm selling myself short and I know that I'm settling. And because you know what you're capable of. Yeah.
I think the other thing that is a very slippery slope, and it goes back to what Jenna just said, is once you start seeing yourself down the path, and you can look at this from any standpoint, weight loss, success, whatever, is like eventually you hit that point of the realization of like, I can't ever stop. Like I have to continue going. Now, the beautiful thing is you truly should understand that you don't need to continue at the same intensity, but you have to continue, right? To your point, it's like, all right, you can lose the 50 pounds, but if you just stop being mindful whatsoever about how you got there and the habits that it took, and you just go back to just not giving a shit, you're going to go completely backwards, right? So you have to have some level of discipline moving forward, which is the most important thing, which leads me to the question I wanted to ask you is one of the things that we talk about a lot. I talk about it very frequently because it's very true and I've seen it happen, but I want to hear your perspective on it. Is one of the things that we talk about is it's less about what you do to get to where you want to go. Obviously that's very important. But it's the majority of it is who you become along the way.
Oh, 100%.
Right. So one of the things I teach, just to solidify that, and I want to hear you talk about it, is, hey, the goal is to figure out, okay, what do I want? Right. And it's not visualizing the house and the boats and the cars and the money and the success. It's visualizing the person you need to be in order to have that. So one of the things we say is, hey, if you could have the life that you want now, because if you were that person, you would already have it. Yeah. So knowing who you become over the last 5 years, 4.5, 5 years, speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. Like we'll just use my biggest goal accomplishment that I just had, because what I've been going after for the last 5 years is becoming a master trainer. And so as I'm continuing to grow and go through this process, like I knew that I was not yet the person that could be a master trainer. Like I didn't have the knowledge. I also I don't think I was mature enough in a lot of ways. I was like emotionally and just energy wise. And so it really kind of connected me with, number one, visualization. And that's where I started learning the most about energy, because it's like, you don't necessarily reach those goals. Like you become the person and then the goal is just what it is. You know what I mean? So I was like, in my head, I don't need to just like earn that. I need to become that. You know what I mean? Are you
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm
What's
just trying to
happening?
slide back because my ankles are jammed up.
Oh.
I'm pivoting.
So it was like I stopped chasing like, oh, I want to earn this title. I want to earn this title. And I started chasing, I want to become a master trainer. And so I started visualizing, what do master trainers do? What kind of energy do they have? What kind of habits do they have? And so over time, I started acting. You see old gum? Is it hard? Okay.
Doing it all the time.
I
It's my
started
gum.
acting as if I was the master trainer. And that's how the quickest way you can embody that energy and become that person. Because it's like, I would literally wake up every day and I would make my decisions in work. I would make my decisions in just the way that I had discipline with getting my workouts in and all the things. If I was a master trainer right now, what would I be doing so that I could lead by example to, all these people or actually become that person? And so that's what connected the dots for me with visualization and that whole like acting as if concept. Is that doesn't answer your question though.
It does, absolutely. I'm going to bring it back to the exposure of it, right? I think that's honestly probably like the title of the podcast, but you had this goal and this dream. And honestly, you had that goal and dream from pretty early on. Like once you understood that was something that you wanted, that you could become.
Hold on. Before you say that, going back, because we were just talking about goals and you were like, that was the next step. I thought, again, you were full of shit. I was like, there is no way that I can do that.
Starting to understand why it takes you 8 months to do anything I tell you to do, because you have to get through the he's full of shit part before you do it.
Yeah, everything that comes out of your mouth.
The truth is coming out.
That was so big for me that it like my mind couldn't even comprehend that even happening. But I was like, that's the trajectory I'm heading towards. I didn't believe I could actually get it, but I was like, that's what would be next. So that's why, first goal was hitting sponsor trainer. It was like, that's the first goal that, okay, I could maybe do that. But I knew that getting to master trainer, I had to hit sponsor trainer first. So I was going that direction anyway. So like, again, the belief wasn't there for master trainer, but it was the same path. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the question I have though is, how much of a role did it play? Because you said something really quick there that I want to highlight. Is you started looking at other master trainers and how they behaved and what they acted like and all the different things so that you could embody that. So essentially what you did was you exposed yourself to what the characteristics you needed to become. So how much of a role do you think that when you started doing that and acting as if, like having that model to kind of build off of, how important was that?
Hugely important. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known how to act as if. You know what I mean? It was like, if you want a goal, you need to know who it is you need to become to have that goal. And in order to do that, like you need to expose yourself with people. And if you don't have somebody that has that exact goal, those type of people, you know what I mean? And like on that level or on that energy frequency. Yeah. And so I literally became a sponge for other master trainers. Every opportunity I got, I was on calls, I was listening to their podcasts, I was watching their content, I was doing everything that they were doing. I was watching them like a hawk. Because I was like, those are the kind of things that they do. Oh my gosh. Okay. He's super disciplined doing that. Like, I was really, really looking up to them.
Yeah. There is a delineation there, and I want to point it out just so nobody gets confused on what you said there, is you didn't compare yourself to them. You looked at the characteristics that they had that you aspired to also have.
Correct.
And then you basically started embodying that in your own light and in your own way. Right. Because, and I know you have done it and people have done it as well. It's the comparison syndrome. Yeah. And it's like, hey, your goal is not to become that person. Your goal is to become like that person and have the characteristics, the energy that person has. Right. Same things. Like my person and that person in my life is Sal. Right. Now that Aaron's dad, to some degree, Aaron. But it's like you get to expose yourself to it. It doesn't mean I want to be exactly like Sal. It's like, I want to take away the things that I don't really care for and add in things that I do care for and just be myself through that process. Right. But there's never any comparison. Right. Because there is always the thing that you have to understand about comparison is that there's a time gap. That person's been doing the things that a winner does for a very long time before you've even thought that it's possible. Right. But I think the most powerful thing of what you've done is that you clipped that off in a very short period of time once you decided to do it. Yeah. Which proves that it's once you set your mind to something and that is your predominant thought, that's what your life becomes.
Well, exactly. Because I think that was a big thing. I also realized that inputs equal outputs. And I was like, okay, if I put everything into this and I make this the forefront of everything I do. And this was honestly the switch that I made when I was trying to make this full time. Because I was like, how am I supposed to, I'm sure you had said this, how am I supposed to make this full time when I'm treating it like a part-time thing? And so that's when I was like, whoa, that makes so much sense. I'm going to treat this like it's full time, even though it's not yet. Like
you went way across the other side of the road. You're like, I'm going to do 4 jobs at once.
But that's where it came into like inputs equal outputs. Because if you treat something like a part-time deal, you're going to get part-time out of it. If you treat your health and fitness, if you put 50% in, that's all you're going to get out. So, and I tell my people that all the time. I'm like, you reaching your goals, like whether it's like quickly or it's going to take you 2 years, depends on how much you want to go all in, because you can do a lot in 4 to 6 weeks, but you can but if you want to enjoy your weekends and you want to take time off and you want to loosely log your food and you want to do all these other things, it's going to take you a really long time because your inputs are going to equal the outputs that you get.
Going along the lines of what we were saying earlier about it's less about what you do and more about who you become, right? Yeah. I want to use that example you just gave. So if you decide to only log your food part-time, that's the action part of that. Mm-hmm. So what I want to say is the faster you become the person that cares about what they put in their body and actually manages it, the faster you achieve that goal, because that is who you're becoming. It's not the action, right? Of course, logging is the action and making sure that you're accountable to it in the thing, but attaching that to who you need to become in order to have that, the faster you become the person that cares about the food they take in and is disciplined to the food that you're taking in, the faster you lose that weight. Because you can log your food all you want, but if you're not even close to where you need to be, the action is moot. It nullifies it. So become the person, right? And it's a great way for anybody that is in this journey to think about it that way.
I mean, that's the biggest example I use to my people. If somebody's struggling to get out of bed to get their workout in the morning, I'm telling you, that is what I still tell myself when I'm going to wake up. What would this person do? This person would get up, get their workout in.
They would a shit ton of water,
drink a bunch of water first thing, like do all the things they need to do. And it's like, if my actions are not aligning with what that person does, and that person at this point now, like, yes, I have mentors, but this person now, I'm very good at visualizing myself at my best. So it's like, whereas I used to have somebody that I idolized in that way, and I would not compare, but like say, okay, I want to be like this person. What would they do? Now it's, what would I do when I'm the best version of myself? Because I've been able to kind of visualize who that person is. Mm-hmm. I know the person that I want to become. I know what kind of energy I want to have. I know what kind of habits I want to have. I don't just wake up that person. You know what I mean? I have to become that person.
Yeah. And the really cool thing, just to tie together the beginning part of the discussion and now of what you just said, because it's very powerful, is to start out, you look to other people to act as if, right? And then what ends up happening is now you have belief in yourself because of the evidence that happens based on the action that you took. So Jenna's here, and this could paint literally the entire picture of everything that she's gone through in her trajectory as well as my trajectory. Is you aspire to be like this, so you model that behavior, and you're like, all right, I just need to become more like that person. Then eventually what happens, you take action, that belief fills in. Now you have confidence, which is basically the evidence of the action that you took, which leads to the belief. And now you say, okay, well, fuck the comparison and fuck the aspiration. How do I become the best version of me possible? Right. And it doesn't mean you stop looking to other people, but it's no longer about that, because now you understand what you're capable of.
Right. Well, now what's cool is like, now that I've become master trainer, it's like I've become all of these other people that I had been looking to. Now I'm like, what do I want to create? You know what I mean? And it's like, that's where my brain's going now. Whereas it's before, I wanted to imitate these people and I wanted to be like them. Now it's like, what can I create moving forward, and where can I go? What path can I create myself? And like I said, I visualize it in my head, and then I visualize the person I need to be to create that path, So it's really cool how it evolves over time. It's pretty awesome. It's crazy what we are truly capable of when we just get over ourselves.
Get out of the way.
Literally. Yeah. Like all of our like fears and limiting beliefs. Like that's why, so my brand is called Unchained Fitness. And that Unchained came from literally my own personal journey of like this metaphor that I created of, I was so chained to those limiting beliefs that I had on my life, that I was like not meant for success. I could never do those things. Like this is the life that I have. I'm never going anywhere. I had chained myself to that. And so becoming unchained is just kind of like overcoming that and realizing what you're truly capable of.
Yeah. That's it.
So,
I mean, that's the thing too, is like, no one actually even knows what they're truly capable
Right.
of. But when you untap that, like, it's way different and way more than what you ever thought was possible.
Yeah.
And the really cool thing is, and I just happen to know this from studying energy and just people and just history and how people have become what they are and who they are and stuff that you don't ever hear, right? There is levels way beyond what anybody that we've ever really associated with or see success from. I mean, that you're capable of. It's insane what we are. But the cool thing is you don't have to achieve that. You can achieve whatever it is that you want, and you can achieve whatever it is that you want from a standpoint of your lot in life. And maybe you just want to become the best mom that you possibly can and be so present so that, you have that servant heart. It's a conversation we had this weekend of goals, and a couple of the women were like, I don't really have huge goals for myself. I just want to be the best mom I can possibly be. And I want to make sure my kids are taken care of. And I said, well, does that make you happy? And they were like, absolutely. I want for nothing. I'm like, well, then that's exactly what you need to go do. Just go do it. It doesn't mean you have to go build a business. And
Right.
I think that's the thing that can be very dangerous when you have the aspiration situation, is just because you aspire to have this part of that person's life doesn't mean you need to have their whole life. It's just the way that it is. Like, all right, I'm looking up to Jenna because she's such an amazing mom. Cool. That doesn't mean I need to go start a business and be successful doing that, or I need to, have a podcast. It's like, just take little things away. And then the cool thing is whatever you want. And to your point earlier, and the point I made earlier today to people, is the hardest thing to do is figuring out what you want. That's an inside job. But so many people are like, well, this is what my parents want me to be, or this is what I feel will be successful because of what other people told me, or my comparisons, keeping up with the Joneses. It's like, no, just be happy, and the thing that you learn over time is that happiness is found in the process. It's not some future thing that you have to wait for. You can just have it right now. Then you get to enjoy life and be what you want to be.
Well, I think too, is we were kind of briefly chatting about the whole, like, not becoming content, but like you can stop at any point as far as like when it comes to how far you want to go towards that specific goal. But I think that there are obviously seasons of life, and you could be in a season of life where you just want to be the best mom that you can, but that doesn't mean that has to be your goal forever.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, yes, but like, by the time maybe when your kids get a little bit older and you're like, okay, I'm not needed as much. Maybe now I'm starting to get a goal. I want to do this. It's okay to move in different directions for different seasons of life and shift, because there are seasons of life for me where I'm like, for instance, right now, I have a really big physical goal, and I feel like in my life, I can put towards the energy to reach that goal. But there's also other times in my life where I'm like, I truly don't have the capacity to put my physical self towards that. I need to focus on this, and this is my goal for now. Yeah. And it's okay. It's not that I'm like throwing this away and not doing anything. It's like, that's just not where my main priorities are. And that's not where my main goal is. Because if your goal is truly your goal, it needs to be your main priority.
And I think even given to that example, because I know there will probably be a lot of moms that listen to us, and I'm fresh off of a weekend of talking mindset with a group of moms, I think it's also very important. And this isn't me telling you what to do, but it's me just hoping and praying that if that is your goal, right, let's just throw that very simple one out there of like being the best mom ever. My hope and prayer is that you truly sit down and define what that actually means.
Right.
Because so many people, and again, this is society, so it's good to audit who put that thought there. Is that your thought or is it somebody else's thought? But in order to be a good mom, you just got to sacrifice and do everything for everybody else all the time. Bullshit.
Correct.
Because what I want you to think about is if that's the definition of a good mom, that might be what happens now because you're making all those sacrifices. But what happens in 4, 5, 10, 12 years, right? Because you made all those quote unquote sacrifices, or the way I positioned it with the group this weekend, it's not a sacrifice, it's an investment.
Yeah.
But because you chose not to invest in yourself to be the best version of yourself in 10 years, you chose to invest in being the best mom for other people right now and invest in giving everything of yourself away. Well, now you just position yourself for 10 years down the line to be in a really bad spot.
Yeah.
Right. It's the aggregate. It's what we talked about. I talked a little bit about on the solo podcast. It's the aggregation of marginal gains. That works for you or against you. And that's not one of the things I talked about in my podcast. But what that means is that the little things right now, it's seemingly insignificant and it's not really going to make a big splash right now. But in 10 years, like all of those little things day to day are going to add up. The opposite way that it works is the same thing. Like 80% of human beings have cancer in their body right now. They have a cancer cell that is there in the body. It is dormant. And the little things that you do today, the little thing that you don't do tomorrow, all of that compounded up over your lifetime decide whether or not those genes turn on or turn off or don't turn on. Right. But right now it doesn't seem like a big thing. But 20 years from now, you're like, man, I really wish I would have taken care of myself back then. Right. So it's the hard part about being a human being is really understanding every day I do something to move myself forward, and it doesn't have to be a ton of it. It's just a little bit. Expose yourself to the future version of yourself and move that direction.
Well, the thing is, your actions compound. Every single action that you take compounds. So it's like when, as you're taking these actions, or honestly just auditing your habits, like if I continue with this habit, where does that compound to? And so that's a matter of just like, looking forward, because doing this right here in this moment today isn't going to do anything, but what's it going to be 10 years down the road? And that works in both directions. Like, maybe walking every day after dinner isn't doing anything. I mean, it will help mental health today, but like 10 years down the road, how does that compound and continue to improve my health and all the things? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's honestly, most people live their life so unintentionally that they can't make that connection.
Right.
They'll make shitty decisions most of their life, and then they'll end up with an illness or a disease or
well, yeah. And so from where I was, because I had not had this light bulb yet, I was making all these actions. I was putting myself in that position that I was in. And so then I'm a victim because this is just the hand of cards that life dealt, but I made all those actions that put me where I was, but I didn't know that I was making them. It was like,
until you expose yourself to the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's very difficult. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, we could continue going down the path. I think we got a pretty good one laid down. It's pretty wild, guys. Understand that when you hear people out there, and this goes, obviously, I don't know who's out there and how you view us, but just making a broad sweeping assumption. If we are two people in your life that you look up to and that you aspire to be like, that's awesome. Cool. But what I want you to understand is whether it's us, whether it's Ed Milet, whether it's anybody out there that's successful, that has something that you want from a characteristic of a physical thing, financially, whatever it may be, they're literally no different than you are. No different. Right. I was telling the group of people this weekend, it's like from the outside looking in, it may look like I'm a disciplined person. I'm not. Like, I am not disciplined at all. Right. And really the truth of the matter is the reason it looks like I am is because I've just set up routines and habits, not even really necessarily habits. They're just such routine things at this point that like, this is just the structure of how I operate. And then I just operate with a zero compromise. It's like, this is so important to me to read 10 pages every single day, no matter how tired I am or how it happens, that I'm going to do it. Because again, I understand the compounding effect. I might read something today that if I don't read it today, it's going to affect me and I may not get to it. You know what I mean? So I'm not disciplined. And the people that are out there that you look up to, they're not perfect. They're just further along and they've made more positive decisions in the direction that you want. Going back to the fixed versus growth mindset, knowing that if one person can achieve something, it is completely possible for anyone else to achieve it. All you got to do is just keep taking positive action moving forward, expose yourself to all kinds of different things so that you can now become that person yourself or become more like the person that you're supposed to be. Very simple. It's so simple that most people overlook it.
I think that's the thing that's blown my mind the most is it's like, it's so simple, but people overcomplicate it, or they just don't want to do the work, so they make it more complicated, and then they create excuses as to why they can't do it.
It's a subconscious excuse.
Yeah.
I talked to somebody about that this weekend.
Yeah.
So subconsciously, you're making excuses. You actually know that you can and you should, and you're capable of it. You're just telling yourself that you don't have time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or you're telling yourself that it's selfish to go do stuff. Because what she said that, I feel really guilty working out when my kids are at home because I feel like I need to be spending that time with my kids. Okay, so I let her finish, and I said, how much of your time do you actually spend with your kids when they're in the house? Or you sit on the couch scrolling?
Yeah.
She goes, no, you're right. I said, okay, so is it a subconscious excuse that you're just lying to yourself so you can feel better about it? Or are you just guilty because you don't spend time with your kids? And then I painted the picture forward for her, and she's like, holy shit. Saw her. Well, guys, you want to tell them how they can get a hold of you if they have any questions for you? Pick your brain.
Instagram is probably the best place. We'll put it in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram, shoot me a DM. You can follow our podcast, When Mamas Rise Up. We are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We are doing our best to release an episode. We have had such a hard time connecting because both of us have kids on summer break. And so we're like maybe every other week, maybe every 3 weeks we'll get connected, but here soon we'll get back to weekly. But yeah, we try to offer as much value as possible. It's very similar. Honestly, I would say if I were to look at both of our podcasts, and this is just the person that you are, it's very black and white, very tactical, very black and white. And Liz and I just talking to the nitty gritty, the emotions, like the gray matter. You know what I mean? So it's like two different.
Yeah. I like to give people action items.
We like to just talk about the things that people care about.
Yeah. It's cool.
So
saying they don't care about action items. Yeah, something that Jenna said earlier as well, that, again, probably got overlooked, but the really cool thing about life and podcasting and books and different things like that is that as you progress through your life, things take on different meanings. And it may be like the example with her is Atomic Habits.
Yeah, I never finished that thought because I started with it because that was, like I said, that was the first book that I read.
Can I finish my thought? Finish it? Jeez Louise. So, but like the thing I want to say there is that if you're listening to her podcast, same thing with me and Dino, we've been struggling a little bit to get some like full length episodes, and that's okay. We're going to bring them and we're going to make sure they're valuable. Don't be afraid to go back and listen to some of the other ones. Right, because you're in a different spot right now. And if you go back and listen to some of Jenna's episodes that you've already listened to, you might take something totally different away, or you're going to hear something that clicks.
So this is a funny story because when I was driving in, so I live about 3 hours from here. So I was driving in and that's my podcast time. I'm like, I will save up podcasts for that. And I went back and listened through Liz and I's last podcast because sometimes I'm like, I think it came across a certain way. Then I like to re-listen and be like, how was that perceived or whatever. So I listened to that. And then I got this thought like, I wonder how we actually sounded on our first podcast. So I went back and started listening. I had to turn it off at 2 minutes in. I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, it was so bad. And even I called Liz immediately after. I was like, I just tried to listen to our very first pilot episode and I couldn't get past 2.5 minutes of it because it was just like, it was awful. Yeah. So don't go all the way back and listen, maybe like within the last year. Yeah. But to that point, I just picked up Atomic Habits again, and it's hitting completely differently, obviously, than it did when I very first started my journey because I was not on that energy frequency yet, and I was not mentally mature enough to understand what it was trying to talk about.
I want to stay on that, and then we'll wrap this up. I did not read Atomic Habits. In fact, it was a book that like my previous leadership that I had here inside First Form's walls. We did like a book club where everybody's going to read it together, and then we talked about it. I just blatantly didn't participate in it because I was reading a different book, and I was very into it. I've judged that book because I was like, all right, I've already got really solid habits. Like, why do I need to read a book on teaching me how to develop habits? I've already figured it out. The funny thing is, a lot of you guys know TJ, and he was in the exact same boat. He was like, So anyway, the other day I was like, dude, I got to tell you about this podcast I was listening to. And he's like, bro, you want to know what? And I didn't even say anything else. I said that. And he's like, you know what pisses me off? I was like, what? He goes, that it took me this long to start reading Atomic Habits. And the podcast I was going to tell him about was At My Lights with James Clear.
Oh, that's weird.
Because I was driving in one day. I'm like, I want to listen to a podcast. So I just literally randomly flung it on Spotify and just stopped my finger. And I was like, I'm going to listen to this one. It's James Clear. And I was like, some of this shit is the most genius stuff I've ever heard in my life. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I started reading Atomic Habits that day. And TJ read it started 2-3 days prior to that. So we had literally started reading the same book and had the same energy, same thought around it. And it was fucking mind blowing. So I'm going to give you a testimony for that book. It is probably one of the most profound and the best book that's ever been written on how to improve where you need to go. But it talks exactly what Jenna talked about. It talks about a lot of the emotional aspect of habits, but it also gives you tactical shit to go do.
Yeah.
So
he's really, really good to listen to too. Phenomenal. So if you are struggling with like getting started or diving into a book, any podcast, I'll have to listen to the Ed Milet one because the one that I listened to was with my favorite guy ever, who is John Maxwell. So he was on a podcast with John Maxwell. And
I never did a James Clear episode. That's weird.
What?
No, you said your favorite guy ever, so I was like, you never.
Oh,
did
you think
I
it's
never
you?
did an episode with James Clear. It's really
easy mistake. Yeah.
easy to confuse the two.
He did one with John Maxwell, which was just phenomenal, and so highly recommend just like immersing yourself into that dude. Thank you. Yep. Really, really good.
All right, guys. Well, I hope that you have valued this. Again, we were a little bit all over the place. I kind of did my best to connect it the way that I typically do, but I think it was valuable nonetheless. We had a lot of fun, and you probably took a lot of stuff away. Really, the most important thing, guys, stop putting so much freaking pressure on yourself. Like, just get yourself exposed to stuff and understand, if anything, that you can change and that it's completely up to you. No one's going to do it for you. You get to do it. I mean, it's a really fun thing, and over time, you get to explore who you are, what you're all about. And you can redefine yourself at any point in time. So
I think one of the biggest things too is like, remember that like you are who you are and the habits that you've had for a very long time. So as you start to have these light bulbs and you're like, I want to make these changes, it can be hard just in the fact that like you're trying to change all these things. So if you're not, quote, I don't even want to use the word successful at it, but like if you're not perfect at it in the very beginning, don't get down on yourself. Don't be like, this is impossible for me. You get in these negative mindsets. It's like, it's going to take time. It's taken me 4.5 years to get from where I was to make a complete 180 to where I'm at. And I'm still not perfect. We were talking about how much I still struggle with self-belief and I have a lot of self-doubt on certain things. It's like, you're always going to be working on it, but it's, you can put yourself on a completely different trajectory.
Yep. TJ said something the other day, and I'll wrap up with this quote. It was really, really good. And I don't know where he heard it, but it probably from somebody else. He said, the only time that you're ever actually truly lost is when you're standing still. Yeah. Like you think about if you're in a forest, you don't know where you're at. The only time you're actually lost is when you're not moving.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're either finding your way further out or you're digging yourself further in, but at least you're moving in some direction that could potentially help. Yeah. So just think about that. Take that. And guys, it's what Jenna's biggest breakthrough. And I want you to take that away. Is like she had zero belief in herself, but she went and took action. So however you have to do that, figure that out. And then you just literally compound that action over time. Again, not even perfectly, but you just keep moving in that direction. You get to where you want to go, and now you get to do podcasts about it, which is really good. So, guys, we appreciate you. We love you. If you guys know somebody that needs to hear this, share the show. Okay, we do everything that we do to be able to add value to the world. Give it to somebody that needs to hear it, and we appreciate you guys. So I'm not going to do the whole peace thing that Dino does, but if you want to, you can. So,
okay.
All right, cool. We'll talk to you guys later. If you need anything, reach out and connect. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day.